Hello everyone. Today I am here to cover a series of topic on chapter process synchronization from the subject operating system. So in the process synchronization chapter, we basically will study what is process synchronization or why do we need process synchronization. Then we will understand what is meant by race condition. When two processes are interacting with each other, when does the race condition exist? And next we will understand what is a critical section and what is meant by critical section problem, what are the requirements to cover up the critical section problem. And then moving further, we will understand what are the solution to critical section problem. Basically we will cover up Peterson solution, which is a software based solution, then a hardware synchronization, which is a hardware solution, and finally using semaphores. After covering these things, we will just analyze with the concept of semaphore. We will further analyze what is classical problems of synchronization, which cover up the bounded buffer problem, the readers writers problem, and the dining philosopher problem. And then we will move up further with the same topics using monitors. I hope these lecture series will help you a lot in preparing for your university exam as well as GATE exams. Do refer this series of lecturers one by one, and any doubts or queries you can contact me through the mail in the description box. Hello everyone. Today's topic what we are going to discuss is under the chapter process synchronization, where we are going to study what is race condition and what are the requirements for critical section. So we have to understand first what is a race condition, what is initially a process synchronization, and what is meant by critical section problem. So let us start with understanding why process synchronization. In order to understand that, we know that we have already studied the processes are of two types, the cooperative process and independent process. What is the meaning of cooperative process? The cooperative process is nothing but where two or more processes, when they are executing, they are sharing something. What are the things they are going to share? Either they share the resources, code segments, variables, etc. So I have written over here cooperative process. So process synchronization is usually needed only when we are dealing with the cooperative process. There are other kind of process which is known as independent process, where we are not bothered about the sharing part. So in a shared memory or in a cooperative process, when they share the resources and they execute parallelly, there is going to happen some kind of error. It's not always. In most of the cases, when they execute parallelly in a indefined way, then there is a chances of getting the error. So let me take an example where I consider two process P1 and P2 and they are executing a code. So this is the code where I have not written any lines over here. I am just considering a code or a program segment in both of it, which is nothing but count plus plus and count minus minus. The code for count plus plus is nothing but I have initialized a register, R1 is equal to count, R1 is then incremented, that is R1 plus plus or R1 plus 1, and count is then given with the value of R1. Similarly for count minus minus, I have the code as such. So we can see here basically what is my shared variable over here, the count. Here also I have count, here also I have count, and this is a program which is running between process P1 and P2. Now let us take some situation where I just think it is a uniprocessor system initially. So the case 1 is considered as process P1 executing first, and then after process P1 finishes, process P2 is executing. So it is the second part. So let me initialize the common variable count is equal to 5. So let's start executing. Let's forget about all these part. When it comes over here, P1 is executing. Let's go for this code. R1 is equal to count. So let me say the first part is R1 is equal to count. So R1 is equal to 5. R1 plus plus. So R1 becomes 6. Count is equal to R1. So now what is the value of count? Count gets updated from 5 to 6. So now the count has changed from 5 to 6. So let me make the change over here to the count variable, that is nothing but 6. Now after finishing the execution of this particular program 1, I am just bothered about this part and this part. I am forgetting all other parts in this particular example. Let's go for the execution of the shared part over here, that is with P2. And with P2, R2 is equal to count. What is the value of R2? Now value of R2 is 6. R2 is equal to R2 minus 1, that is R2 becomes now 6 minus 1, that is nothing but 5. And count is nothing but equal to R2, that is nothing but 5. So my count get updated to 5. Initially it was 5 and it has come back to the value 5, and it has to happen if process 1 and process P2 is happening one after the other, because initially 5 got incremented to 6 and then it got decremented to 5. So this is nothing but when the processes are executing one after the other. Let me take the case 2. So remember the case 1, the output of the count variable was to 5. Now let's go to the case 2. In case 2, let me assume it is a multi-programming environment, or at a time 2 programs are running parallelly, or it's a preemptive kind of scheduling, where I'll name the lines as this is line number 1, this is line number 2 and this is line number 3, where process P1 initially is executing line number 1 and 2, then it is preempted, it is stopped over here and it goes to the process P2, where process P2 is executing line number 1, 2 and 3, and then finally it comes back to the process P1 and it executes the line number 3. So it's a multi-programming, as I said. From here I am context switching to process P2, and from process P2 once it finishes I come back to process P1. It can be a preemptive kind of scheduling. Now in this case, let's assume what are the values going to come. So initially, as I said, P1 is executing line number 1 and 2. In line number 1, R1 is equal to count. So initial value of the count we have assumed it as 5. So R1 is equal to 5 and R1 is incremented to 6. Now we preempt, and from here we jump to, this was process P1 part, and then we jump to process P2 and continue with process P2. Now what are the value what we have? R2 is equal to count. R2 is equal to count, where I have not taken any value of count updation over here. So R2 is 5 itself, and R2 is decremented by 1. So R2 becomes 4 and count becomes R2, that is 4. Now the count value has changed to 4, and then in the third part, as I said, I have context switching from P2 to P1 again. Now when it comes to P1 again, the last part is updating. Count is equal to R1, count is equal to R1. What was the R1 value? That is 6. So count is equal to 6. So what is the final value I have of the count? The count variable is initialized in case 2 with 5 and it get updated with count value is equal to 6. So this is another case where I assumed a context switching from process P1 to process P2 and then back to process P1. So let me take the case 3, where I'll assume P1 is executing line number 1 and 2 as a previous, P2 is executing line number 1 and 2, and again P1 is executing line number 3 and P2 is executing line number 3. So I have made a context switch. How many context switch? From P1 to P2, P2 to P1, P1 to P2. So I have made 4 context switch over here. Now let's see what is the updated value. So I have assumed initial value of count is 5. So let's go with this particular variation. Okay. Now let's see what happens in this particular case. Now R1 is equal to count, that is nothing but 5, line number 1, line number 2 is R1 is getting incremented, so R1 becomes 6. This is the first part that with the P1. Then context switch to P2. So P2 happens over here with what is the value? R2 is equal to count, so count is nothing but 5 and R2 is equal to R2 minus 1, that is R2 becomes 4. Then I switch from P2 to P1. So, P1 is nothing but I have count is equal to R1. What is the current value of R1? R1 is nothing but 6 over here. So, count is equal to 6. And from P1 I come back to P3 where P1 to P2 where P2 the last line is nothing but count is equal to R2. So, count is equal to 4. So, case 3 what I get final answer for count is equal to 4. Okay. Now, if you see many cases I can do the context switching in any particular way. I can switch after each particular line also, P1 from here to here, then come back to P1 to the second line and switch to P2 second line. I can do any kind of context switching. There is no limitation to try the chances over here, but we get different kind of answer. So, we can see that based on the switching from one particular process to another particular process, my answers also differs, which is nothing but stated as race condition. Race condition. That is means there is a race between process P1 and P2 for the value of count. We can define the race condition as several processes access and manipulate the same data and the outcome is based on the order of the execution is nothing but the race condition. So, we have got a situation over here, the several process, I have taken only two processes over here P1 and P2 and they access the common data that is count and the outcome is based on order of execution, like case 1 gives me a different answer, case 2 gives me a different answer and case 3 gives me a different answer. So, based on the order of the execution I get different answer, which is nothing but the race condition. And going to the critical section, okay, before understanding what is critical section problem, let's understand what is a critical section from this particular figure itself. In each particular process, that is nothing but the cooperative process, whatever we explain, we can see that there is a common code or not a common code. I can see here a common variable. In this both the codes I have a common variable and this part of the code is nothing but the critical section. So, we have the critical section in each particular cooperative process where they share the resources or variable or any particular content, and other part of the particular process is known as remainder section. So, these are the remainder section. So, in this also I have a remainder section. Now, in order to overcome the race condition, what is the main thing required? When one process enter into the critical section, make sure that no other process enter into the critical section. So, this is a very compulsory point what we have to note in our process synchronization. In order to maintain a process synchronization, we have to avoid the race condition. That means we have to have a critical section problem, and in a critical section problem our focus is to avoid any particular process entering into the critical section when some process is executing. For example, if process P1 was executing this particular code, that is a critical section code over here where we have a common variable count, P2 should not be allowed to enter. Or if P2 had entered into the critical section, P1 should not be allowed to enter. So, this is nothing but the critical section, and we know that we have some requirements to satisfy this particular critical section problem, which is usually asked in the university question. So, with all the concept previous, we have understood what is race condition and what is the need of process synchronization. In race condition, when the values changes, we need some particular concept that the processes are synchronized with each other to have a proper data output. So, a critical section problem. So, we have seen what is a critical section, and in critical section problem it designs a protocol that process can cooperate, so that we do not have a outcome which is in an error method. So, if to access a critical section, the main feature, as I said, the first thing is if Pi is entering in a critical section, we should take care that Pj is not allowed to enter into the critical section. That is nothing but the mutual exclusion I can see. And another particular thing what we can see in the critical section problem is we have to have a request permission. So in order to enter a critical session, we have to have to run a entry section code, and when we finish the critical session, we have to run a exit section code so that the other process can enter into the critical session. So a process is allowed to enter into the critical session only if the entry section is valid, and once it execute the critical session, the exit section is executed so that it can enter into the reminder section as well as the other process can enter into the critical session. So this is the general structure. Whenever we have a process which has a critical session, that means when they have some content which is shared by other particular process, run the entry section code, go to the critical session, finish the critical session part, and then come to the exit session. So in critical section problem, basically we have three requirements. So the three requirements are mutual exclusive, progress, and bounded waiting. There are three requirements for the critical session problem: mutual exclusion, progress, and bounded waiting. The first two are the primary requirements, or I can say it's a mandatory requirement, and bounded waiting is the secondary requirement. So what is mutual exclusion? As I said, mutual exclusion is nothing but if I have a process Pi and Pj and both want to enter into the critical session, if Pi has entered into the critical session, Pj should not be allowed to enter into the critical session, or vice versa. If Pj has entered first into the critical session and it is executing the critical session, Pi should not be allowed into the critical session, which is nothing but mutual exclusion. So mutual exclusion is very easy to understand, and it is one of the primary requirement or a mandatory requirement for a critical session problem. The second one is progress. As the name suggests itself, progress is nothing but the movement, isn't it? A forward movement. So in progress, what it refers is, if no process is executing in the critical session and some processes want to enter into the critical session, then only the process that are not executing in the reminder section can participate in the critical session entry. So which will enter into the, and it will be decided onto a particular criteria which will enter into its critical session. So let me take three particular process: P1, P2 and P3. So if you talk about a round robin scheduling, what we do, we give a particular time limit to P1 and then give it to P2, then give it to P3. So let me assume both the three are having their critical session, all are having their critical session, and I am going for a round robin fashion. First I give the chance to P1, then I give the chance to P2, then P3, again P1, P2, P3, where I have a criteria where P3 is not needing to enter into the critical session. Simply it is entering into the critical session and wasting its time. It lags over there. So here our assumption is the progress is not happening. P1 and P2 want badly to enter into the critical session, where P3 doesn't want, where I give the chance to enter into the critical session. So it's a lagging of time what we see. So here we see that a progress should happen where the process who want to enter into the critical session only should be allowed to compete for the entry into the critical session. So that which will lead to the progress. So this is also one of the primary requirement. And the last one is bounded waiting. Bounded waiting is something like this. I have two particular process which want to enter into the critical session. Let me say that P1 entered into the critical session first, it came out from the exit session, and it again entered into the critical session, it again came out, it entered into the critical session, and it is entering multiple times, where P2 is just waiting to enter into the critical session, where P1 is leading. And as far as mutual exclusion is considered, when P1 enters, P2 will not be allowed. So P2 is waiting for a long time, or I can say it is a starvation. So I give a bounded waiting limit where P2, after trying a number of chance, let me say it is 3. After 3 attempts, P2 should be, the bounded wait time is 3. After 3 attempts, P2 should be allowed to enter into the critical session. So this is nothing but I give a bounded time waiting for the entry into the critical session. After multiple attempts, depending on what is the bounded time, a process will be forcefully allowed to enter into the critical session. So these are the 3 requirements for the critical session problem.